Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for taking time out of your busy day to attend today's webinar. Hopefully you'll get some value out of today's webinar and get a better understanding about Single Touch Payroll Phase 2. There's a bit to go through, so we'll get started. My name's Romeo Velado, and I'm one of the directors here at VI Partners. Today, I'm joined by Lauren Lambden, one of our client advisors, to explain the next steps that you need to undertake within Xero for your business to implement the next stages of Single Touch Payroll Phase 2. I will start off with a quick recap of Single Touch Payroll, including the introduction of Single Touch Payroll Phase 2 and the stages. I'll then hand over to Lauren and she will go through the presentation where she will actually take you through a step-by-step guide as to what to do to implement stage 2 and 3 of the Single Touch Payroll Phase 2 rollout. Lauren will also finish off by giving you some tips on handling payroll during the upcoming Christmas period, as well as explain how to use the notes and history function for employees within Xero. If you do have any questions, please put them into the chat box at the bottom of the page at any time, and we'll endeavour to answer them at the end of the presentation. So Single Touch Payroll, just as a bit of a recap, it was introduced on the 1st of July 2019. And the main purpose was that it was to simplify the reporting process to the tax office of wages paid to employees. The introduction of Single Touch Payroll meant that employers provided the HL details of payments made to employees for each pay cycle, whether it be weekly, fortnightly, or monthly, as well as information relating to tax withheld, fringe benefits tax amounts, and superannuation liabilities. This information over the last few years has given the tax office a better view of whether employees are actually keeping up to date with their obligations and have been able to better target their compliance focus, especially in the area of superannuation guarantee and in a much timely manner. Up till now, the information report to the ATO has been very general, especially with gross payments made to employees. However, the recent expansion to Phase 2 will mean that there will be significantly more information that will need to be reported to the ATO. This will give greater visibility to the tax office over specific payments being made to an employee, such as overtime, bonuses, and allowances. To go through this in more detail, I'm going to hand over to Lauren to explain what you need to do within Xero to implement stage 2 and 3 of the new STP. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you, Romeo, and hello, everyone. Now that Romeo has given us a recap and refreshed our memory on the background of Single Touch Payroll, let's briefly touch on what we already know about STP Phase 2. In the 2019-20 budget, the government announced that Single Touch Payroll would be expanded to include additional information. Under Single Touch Payroll Phase 2, the Australian government will now require all employers to report additional information through STP on each payday. This information will include details such as income or payment type and also the reason for any termination of employment. Australian businesses that have employees on their payroll will be impacted by this change, and you have until March 2023 thanks to an extended Xero deferral to begin reporting via STP Phase 2. We do encourage you to complete all 3 stages in Xero as soon as possible to ensure a smooth transition to STP Phase 2. Under STP Phase 2, you need to report additional information to the ATO in a few new areas. The main changes are as follows. Employers are currently required to submit a tax file number declaration to the ATO. Phase 2 will incorporate employee tax information via STP reporting, which eliminates the need to submit tax file number declarations to the ATO as a whole separate process. It is, however, important to remember that as an employer, you still do need to ensure an employee completes the form and you keep it on file. You already tell the ATO about the type of income your employees receive in your STP report, but the reporting of income types is being introduced in Phase 2 to more flexibly identify payments you make to your employees with the specific tax consequences, and also make it easier for them to complete their individual income tax return. Specifying a reason for termination will also be mandatory when an employee finishes their employment. Currently, an employer might be asked to provide an employee with an employment separation certificate upon an employee's termination of employment, but under phase 2, you will require the reason for termination to be included in the STP report that is sent to the ATO. Paid leave will not be included as part of gross earnings anymore when reporting earnings via STP. You still need to report leave payments made for employees in your ST report though. In STP phase 1 reporting, some allowances were reported separately, but others were reported as part of gross earnings. You'll now need to report all allowances separately in your STP phase 2 report across most income types. This means that allowances previously reported as gross must now be separately itemised and reported. If you do pay directors' fees, you now must separately include these in your STP phase 2 report. Directors' fees include payments to the director of a company or a person who performs the duties of a director of the company. And finally, there might be times when you pay some employees bonus payments. These are typically paid as a lump sum. Previously, they were reported as a part of gross payments, but for STP phase 2, they'll now be reported separately. So what happens now? To help you make the transition, Xero has been rolling out changes in 3 stages, so you're ready for STP phase 2 reporting before the end of the year. You will be able to use simple transition tools in Xero so you can update payroll data smoothly and with ease. Stage 1 was all about employee transition. This has been available for the past couple of months. If you attended our last webinar, we took you through a live demo on how to complete the first stage in Xero. If you do need a recording of that webinar, please contact us and we can provide you a copy. Stage 2, the pay item transition, is one of the newly released stages now available. With the pay item transition tool, you can identify and replace non-compliant pay items with the new earnings categories defined by STP phase 2. Today, we will take you through a live demo on how to complete stage 2 in Xero. And finally, stage 3, leave categories. This is the other newly released stage now available. Paid leave is being broken down into additional subcategories for phase 2. With the leave transition tool, you may need to update your existing leave categories to meet the new reporting requirements. We'll take you through a live demo shortly on how to complete stage 3. So what is stage 2 in more detail? Previously, under STP phase 1, you reported an aggregated total of year-to-date gross income amounts. STP phase 2, stage 2, which is a bit of a mouthful, is all about breaking down the gross wages into separate details. Gross amounts for each income type will need to be reported as an individual itemised amount. This ensures that the data can be easily understood by different government departments. For example, Services Australia, they will use different itemised amounts to support their calculations of welfare benefits provided to recipients. Income payments are still to be reported as year-to-date amounts. However, instead of reporting a single gross amount, you will now disaggregate them into one of the following categories: directors' fees, allowances, salary sacrifice, paid leave, overtime, lump sum payments, bonuses, and workers' compensation. The disaggregation of gross salary will significantly increase the transparency of information provided to the ATO and other government departments. And the ramifications of this include additional reporting of allowances. That will mean that the government departments can now easily look at what type of an allowance is being paid and if the correct tax treatment is being used. The separate reporting of overtime gives greater clarity on if you as an employer are meeting your minimum wage obligations, as well as working out if the correct super guarantee contributions are being calculated and paid. The separate reporting of allowances gives the ATO greater clarity to ensure deductions for individuals that they're claiming in their tax returns are relevant. And finally, the breakdown of paid leave. This will assist government departments to determine eligibility for certain welfare benefits. So a lot of ramifications with STP Phase 2. If you pay your staff all-purpose allowances, which is an allowance that forms part of your employee's ordinary rate of pay, you will need to take additional steps not shown in today's demo in order to report these accurately to the ATO. Please do reach out to one of our team members if this is a case for your business. So now we have all the information on what STP Stage 2 is. Let's get into a live demo on how to easily update your existing pay items in Xero. From our dashboard, we need to access the STP Phase 2 portal. Click on Payroll, Single Touch Payroll, and then from the top tab, STP Phase 2. The STP Phase 2 portal will not only give us some additional resources, but also show us the steps we need to action or that have already been completed. You can see from my demo company that step 1, updating employee profiles, has already been marked as completed. So I'm now able to move on to step 2 of replacing pay items. Remember, you do need to have completed step 1 before moving on to step 2. Within our STP portal, under the Phase 2 section, Xero has listed the reporting categories which need to be replaced. We need to review our existing pay items and replace them. By clicking on the Replace Pay Items button, we are now taken to the pay item settings within the overall payroll settings of your organisation. There are a range of pay items you may need to update in order for these to be reporting correctly, but please keep in mind that depending on your internal business operations, you may have the same earnings lines as I do in my demo, or you may have more or less. What we need to do is ensure every earnings name has the correct earnings category assigned. So let's work through these one by one. Christmas bonus, we can see that the earnings category for Christmas bonus is currently set as ordinary times earnings. We know as a part of the changes required that this earnings category needs to be disaggregated from gross ordinary times earnings. So we need to replace the pay item. In order to replace, we need to click on the overflow menu on the right-hand side and click replace. From here, we now need to select the new category. In this instance, it will be bonuses and commissions, and click next to move on to the next step. This next step, we are required to review the pay item settings. On the left, we can see that the current pay item is being changed from ordinary times earnings to, on the right, bonuses and commissions. Click next. Now it's time to review the employee pay templates that are affected by the new pay item changes. If you are unsure what a pay template in Xero is, this is set at each employee level and is the default earnings, benefits, reimbursements, or deductions that remain standard with each payroll. As you can see, no employees have our earnings line of Christmas bonus set up in their pay template, which being a Christmas bonus, this is not unusual, and this is usually added manually when completing end-of-year payroll if your employees are lucky enough to receive one. So we can simply click next and move on to the final step. This is our opportunity to confirm the updates we are making are correct. We confirm that 1, new pay items will be created, 2, current pay items will be marked as inactive, and 3, no employees' pay templates will be updated. Click confirm and success. If we now navigate back to our pay item settings, we can see that the Christmas bonus has been correctly disaggregated from gross earnings and updated for STP2. On to laundry. Laundry allowance does not have the correct earnings category and is set to ordinary times earnings rather than being set as an allowance. So we need to replace the pay item. In order to replace, we click on the overflow menu and hit replace. We now can select the new category, which in this instance is allowances. We select the type of allowance, which in this instance is laundry, and click next. We then have the opportunity to again review the pay item settings. On the left, we can see that the current pay item is being changed from ordinary times earnings to, on the right, it is being changed to allowances with the type as laundry. Click next to move on. Now it's time to review the employee pay templates that are affected by the new pay item changes. We can see that this earnings line is contained in a pay template for our employees James LeBron and Oliver Gray. The pay template for these employees will automatically update to reflect our new earnings category change. This change will not impact already posted pay runs, timesheets, or opening balances. Click next to move to the final step. This is our opportunity to confirm the updates we are making are correct. We confirm that the new pay items will be created, the current pay item will be marked as inactive, and that 2 employees' pay templates will be updated. Click confirm and success. If we navigate back to our pay item settings, we can now see that laundry allowance has been correctly disaggregated and updated for STP2. Meal allowance has the correct earnings category of an allowance, so we don't need to replace any details. Ordinary earnings has the correct category, and the 3 remaining, overtime, paid parental leave, and workers' compensation, are all also currently set up correctly. The only updates we need to make as a part of stage 2 relate to earnings. We do not need to navigate into reimbursements or deductions. It is also essential that we update all earnings listed, even if they are not currently in use, to ensure that if or when you do need to use them in the future, they are set up correctly in order to comply with ATO requirements. Once we have reviewed all our earnings in the payroll settings, we can now navigate back to the STP2 portal just by clicking this button above. The final step we need to do is marking step 2 as complete. We simply need to scroll back down, tick off the pay items that we reviewed or those not available that we did not have in our payroll settings, and mark the stage as complete. That's it. That's all you need to know about replacing our pay items. And once we've hit our mark as complete button, you're now ready to move on to stage 3. So what is stage 3? As a part of STP phase 2, existing paid leave types need to be classified in line with the appropriate ATO reporting code using Xero's leave transition tool. Previously, earnings were grouped together to form part of the gross payments figure, but under STP phase 2, the ATO requires paid leave to be reported as a separate figure to the gross payments. A leave category will need to be assigned to each of your active leave pay items in your organisation, And this category determines how the payment is reported to the ATO through STP. In order to assign leave categories, you do need to mark stage 1 and stage 2 as complete first. Using the leave transition tool, we can easily update the leave pay items that are missing a category. Remember that unpaid leave items won't require a leave item to be assigned, and this is because there is no ATO requirement to report unpaid leave through Single Touch Payroll, as there is no actual payment to report. So let's jump straight into a live demo of stage 3. Let's start within our STP2 portal. We can see that step 1 has already been completed, step 2 has been completed, and this brings us to step 3, assigning leave categories. It's important to remember that you cannot complete step 3 without having done steps 1 and 2. Let's take a look at the leave transition tool by clicking Update Leave Categories. This is where we have the ability to update our existing leave items and assign an ATO reporting category. If you need to change the leave category after it's been set and included in a posted pay run, you may need to create a new leave pay item and make manual adjustments. If you are unsure about the leave category to assign, you can click on the hyperlink for more guidance. If I scroll down, you can see that I have leave items in use and leave items that haven't been used. Let's start with leave items in use. Starting with annual leave, we have the drop-down showing the available leave categories for STP2 we are able to choose from. Choose annual leave and the reporting category auto-populates. Move on to personal carers leave, use the drop-down and the ATO reporting category auto-populates. Moving on to leave types that haven't been used, start with long service leave. We choose the drop-down to choose the ATO reporting category, and the code again auto-populates. Finally, for compassionate leave, we need to assign the category, and again, the reporting category from the ATO auto-populates. We can now click Next to move on. The final review is to confirm the final changes we have made to the leave types. And as we are happy with all of those, we will click Confirm. The leave categories are now confirmed. Now that all our leave types have a newly assigned category, we can now mark step 3 as complete by navigating our way back to the STP2 portal. Once you're back in the STP2 portal, we'll scroll all the way back down to stage 3 until we come across the Mark as Complete button. Upon clicking this button, we will receive a pop-up message acknowledging that all paid leave items are now assigned to a leave reporting category, and we have now completed all 3 stages of the STP Phase 2 transition. Our payroll data is now ready to file to the new Phase 2 filing standards, and Xero and VI partners will let you know when it's ready to switch from Phase 1 to Phase 2 in the coming months. That brings us to the conclusion of our live demo segment on completing stages 2 and 3 in Xero. Xero does have great resources if you need any further guidance. Otherwise, please feel to reach out to us if you have any additional queries or issues with the process, as we are always happy to help. Now, onto our bonus topic for today's webinar. The payroll procedure during the Christmas period is a little bit trickier than usual, but don't worry, these few tips should get you sorted. It's always best to sort out administrative issues ahead of time, especially when heading into the holiday season. To be as prepared as possible, you can ask yourself the following questions. Is my business closing down during Christmas and New Year's? Are any staff taking leave? What type of leave are they taking? If my business is staying open, who is working and when? Will anyone be working on public holidays? And am I aware of the penalty rates for these days? Will I need to run multiple pays in advance of Christmas? During the shutdown period, full-time and part-time employees will be able to take annual leave, or if your business agrees, leave in advance or leave without pay. While on paid leave, employees still accrue annual leave and personal leave. Ensure that employees submit their leave requests in advance by using Xero Me if they have been given access. If not, you will need to submit and approve the leave requests on their behalf. Submitting and approving leave requests in advance will ensure when you process the pay run in Xero, employees are paid appropriately. Tip 3, when you run your Christmas pay, you will want to consider an important tip. Even though you may be paying your employee in advance for the Christmas period, it is best practice to create multiple pay runs with the correct pay periods and relevant hours in each. The issue with paying in advance and using only one pay run instead of creating multiple pay runs is that the pay-as-you-go withholding will be incorrect. Tip number 4, full-time employees who usually work during a day that a public holiday falls on will be paid at the base rate of their ordinary hours for the day. If you have set up the holiday groups in Xero, Xero will automatically adjust your employee's payslip. Holiday groups are set at each employee level under the employment tab. Holiday groups also do support employees who work in other states if you do have that type of scenario within your business. For part-time employees, this works the same way, but additional care is needed by you to ensure their ordinary days worked are checked to see if they are entitled to the holiday pay that falls on that public holiday date. And finally, tip number 5, for businesses that pay out a bonus, Christmas may be a common time to do so. These are usually paid as a lump sum and are considered one-off payments. So it is important to make sure these are correct and the correct amount of tax is deducted. Xero does automatically calculate the correct amount of tax for a bonus as long as you are using the correct earnings category. So there are 5 tips for the payroll during Christmas period. Finally, I just wanted to take the opportunity in today's webinar to bring your attention to one of the newer payroll features you may not yet be aware of, which is the payroll history. Now, this is a long-awaited feature request by many Xero users. The payroll history audit table, it provides a history of changes made to your employee records within payroll. Changes are date stamped to show when they took place and also show which user made the changes. Some of the history of changes that you'll be able to view include bank accounts, salary and wages, and personal information. To access the payroll history table, you need to first navigate to the payroll menu and select employees. By clicking on an employee's name and opening their employee record, you can then drill down into the tab that you want to view the history for. In my example on the screen, you can see that I've opened Oliver Gray's employee card, selected the employment tab, and expanded the history table at the bottom of the screen. This now shows me time and date stamp changes I have made to things like employment basis and superannuation membership details. Really, really handy feature. So let's reflect back on everything that we've covered in today's webinar. If you haven't already, stage 1 should have been completed in Xero. This is the updating of employee profiles. Stage 2 is the newly released stage and is available now. It's all about reporting the individual components that make up an employee's pay rather than reporting just a single gross amount. Once you have completed stage 1 and 2, remembering you need to complete these stages in sequential order, you are now ready to move on to stage 3, which is also now available. This is all about classifying your organisation's active active leave pay items in line with the ATO's reporting codes. We also covered a bonus topic on 5 helpful tips for preparing payroll over the Christmas period. And finally, we touched on the new payroll history table. We will now be opening to any questions that have come throughout the course of the webinar. Doesn't look like that we've got any sitting there at the moment. If you do have any questions that you think of after the webinar concludes, please feel free to reach out to myself or Romeo, and we'll be more than happy to assist. So finally, on behalf of Romeo and myself, we would like to thank you all for attending today's webinar and your continued support as valued clients of VI Partners. We hope you all have a great evening, and should you have any further questions, please reach out. As I mentioned, a recording of the webinar will be sent through to you for future reference alongside a short survey on today's session, just to ensure we continue to deliver relevant content that is valued to your business. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.